Welcome into the Cougar Tailgate, where BYU fandom lives. Here's your host, Lauren McClain.
What's up, everyone? Another day, another Pac-12 opponent for BYU. Cougars all around. Cosmo the Cougar versus Butch T. Cougar. And that's got to be hard for the announcer during the game. But today we're going to dive deeper into the unique traditions of the Washington State Cougars as they don their crimson red on game day in Pullman, Washington. Matt Zollinger, Associate Director of Athletics for Marketing and Fan Experience, will join me later in the show. But first, if you're a fan of ESPN's College Game Day, chances are you've seen WSU's crimson or gray flag waving in the background. In fact, they haven't missed one since 2003. And to tell us more about that, joining me is CJ McCoy, coordinator for the Old Crimson Booster Club and the man in charge of tracking down a WSU alumni near each College Game Day site to keep the streak alive. Thanks for coming on with me today, CJ.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so this all started as a matter of school pride when Washington State was ranked high in the early 2000s, I believe, and Tom Pounds wanted ESPN to bring College Game Day to Pullman. After that, how was the tradition able to continue? Because that's a difficult thing to do.
Yeah, it's really challenging, I think, for other institutions to replicate it. But being a Coug, as you guys know, is something special, and being a Washington State Coug is something really special to us. And so it's always really been about that display of pride, and it means a lot to our fans and to graduates. I mean, we have somebody who's going to take their father for a surprise flag waving for his 60th birthday because it's something he's always wanted to do, and that's coming up in a couple of weeks. I mean, it's just something that has a life of its own, and it's really difficult to explain how much it means to everybody.
Oh, I love that so much. And obviously it means a lot to you because this isn't even in your main gig. You have a lot going on. So what made you want to become involved with this?
I just was really blessed that Tom reached out to me, a bit of a whim on his part. He was going to go back to school and get a master's degree and didn't think he would have the time to do the day-to-day. And so he reached out to me. Asked me if I would take it over from him for a while, and here we are 10 or 11 some odd years later. I lost count along the way, but I didn't have the heart to tell Tom I was in a doctorate program at the time. It just meant a lot that he offered, and I was happy to do it.
My goodness, you're a good man. Well, part of your job is finding the alumni to wave the flag during College Game Day. I'm sure you have a lot of crazy stories, but what's one of the craziest stories you have when trying to accomplish that, trying to find somebody?
Well, so these days it's a lot less difficult to find somebody, and it's more about trust.
Right.
I will have young graduates who will move to, the middle of nowhere, conceivably, and say, "Hey, I just moved to this place in such and such state. Will you let me know when game day is coming here?" And I have to say, well, I'm going to have to ask you to let me know when it comes near you. But, when they announce a new place, it really is surprising. I mean, I thought I was going to have trouble when they went to North Dakota a few years back. And I probably had 30 emails from Cougs in the area who just were jumping at the opportunity. And surprising, this might surprise you, it's not those one-off places where we have challenges. It's where they go all the time. There was a year where they went to Alabama, must have gone 5 times to Alabama in that year, and everybody was just busy. And I think I had to have somebody one year for Tallahassee. I had somebody drive from Austin to Tallahassee because everybody in Tallahassee was kind of done or busy, or it's not that they didn't want to be there, but couldn't take another day off of work or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. There isn't anybody who's going to not let that flag fly. I mean, we were able to get it onto an active Navy ship in San Diego with some active duty, troops. And, there was a time when we almost didn't make it to Tucson, and ESPN took down the flag that they have of ours in their cafe and flew it out for us. So these days we're just a part of the show. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. There are some weeks that are more challenging than others.
I bet. Have you ever had to go do it yourself, CJ?
I am the third all-time leading waiver. Actually, I've done it well over 20 times myself.
Oh my goodness! And this was all because you wanted to, or sometimes because you had to?
No, it's always because I wanted to. But I'll tell you, if I was to just take the flags and drive to a show, I guarantee people I don't know who are Cougs would show up there in their Coug gear and want to wave the flag because game day was coming, and they just didn't reach out or tell anybody. And we see that happen at every show almost.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure all Washington State fans look for that flag week in and week out. What would you say is your favorite part about this specific tradition?
Really just how much it means to everybody. It's the 17th of this month was the 3-year anniversary of game day finally going to Pullman. And actually, I didn't get to go. I went to a memorial service in Hawaii instead. And I very distinctly remember turning on the TV at 2 o'clock in the morning with everybody else snoring around me and watching them launch the show in Pullman, and just how much that meant to Washington State University and all those fans out there. And someone did I think it was ESPN actually did an episode, just a short stint on YouTube the other day about it, and it still brings chills to you when you watch it and you think about how much it means to Cougar fans. And that's why we do it. It just is so representative of their experience in a place that has shaped their lives in meaningful ways. And that's really what's important.
That has to be so neat for you since you are so involved, seeing ESPN do a feature on it. What does it mean to be able to be recognized, almost a partnership with ESPN with this?
We wouldn't be able to do this without them, and we're incredibly thankful to them. And our partner, FedEx, this year is helping us out a lot. And we certainly wouldn't be able to do it without those fans. I'll tell you, ESPN embracing us and this whole effort is really important, and we're just really blessed to be a part of it. I personally, on the personal level, I appreciate the folks that work there, but I try not to be out in front of the flag because it isn't about CJ or about those of us, on the Booster Club. It really is about that flag being there every week, and ESPN knows that, and they're going to do everything they can to make sure we get there.
Hey, that's what college football is about. I love that so much. And you're a WSU alum, received your bachelor's degree there. What do you feel like it is about the school that makes the fandom run so deep, where people will all around the country want to be a part of this thing?
Well, if you've never been to Pullman, Washington, it's hard to explain. There isn't much there except incredible rolling wheat fields that were formed by melting icebergs along the way, and it takes a while to get there. It's not an easy place to get to, but once you're there, it's an experience that I've never found at any other institution. And I work in higher education, and have been to a lot of places, and so there just is really something special about spending time in Pullman, Washington, and having the opportunity to form relationships with folks that you're probably not going to see on another campus if you were going to go to a different location. And so there just is a lot of pride about being a Washington State Cougar, and I think everybody who goes to WSU feels that and knows that. And you can walk in an airport and see that Cougar symbol on a hat and say "Go Cougs," and someone will shout "Go Cougs" back at you without even a question.
I love that. Hey, sounds familiar. Every city where every city has something unique that they do on game day. Obviously, you guys have this with ESPN College Game Day. But apart from that, CJ, what would you say is one of your favorite Cougar traditions that you guys do each game day?
In Pullman, I'm a ROTC graduate, so I think a lot of my fellow ROTC grads and a lot of Cougars would say that shooting off that cannon when we score is really exciting and a lot of fun. But I think most people would tell you a trip over to Ferdinand's to get some cheese curds or some ice cream would be their favorite tradition.
I love that. That sounds great. I'm going to have to take a trip over there. All right. Lastly, I want you to give me a game prediction of what you think the score is going to be.
Boy,
I threw you a curveball there.
Yeah, I wasn't ready for that. I got to go look at the line here really quick. I haven't taken a look at your defense, so it's hard to say. But you guys were ranked in the top 25 this earlier this season, so I think it's going to be a tight game. But I wouldn't be surprised if the over/under was in the mid-50s or higher. I'm going to have to go in the tradition of one of my favorite all-time Cougs. I'm going to have to say Cougs by 50.
I like that. That sounds good to me. All right. CJ McCoy, coordinator for the Old Crimson Booster Club and the man in charge of tracking down a WSU alumni near College Game Day site each and every week. Thank you so much for taking the time with me, CJ.
Thank you, guys, and thanks for having us, and go Cougs.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Up next, what should BYU fans expect to see when they arrive in Pullman, Washington today? Matt Zollinger, Associate Director of Athletics for Marketing and Fan Experience, joins me to tell us all about the game day experience. This is Cougar Tailgate. Welcome back to Cougar Tailgate. I'm Lauren McClain. There are a whole bunch of Cougars running around Pullman, Washington today, gearing up for the BYU-WSU matchup. And with me now is the man who makes sure everyone has the best game day experience possible. Let's welcome the Associate Director of Athletics for Marketing and Fan Experience, Matt Zollinger. Thanks for coming on, Matt.
Hey, thank you for having me. Pleasure's all mine.
You bet. Okay, first off, you used to work for BYU, and that was before working in the NBA for a bit, which is super cool, and then WSU. So what did you do for the Cougars in blue before you went to the Cougars in crimson?
Yeah, a lot of manual labor, quite honestly. A lot of T-shirt stuff, a lot of posters. David Almadova, he is still there, but he oversaw kind of the intern program when I was floating around at BYU. It was a long time ago, but it's really where I got my feet wet. Really started to understand what it meant to have like a real game day experience. But I love my time there, and I really, really appreciative of it. But man, it was a long time ago. But I'm excited for you guys to visit and kind of get to see BYU again. It's been a little while.
That's awesome. Because of that, we're going to pretend like it's going to be hard for you to know who to root for. You don't have to comment on that.
Fair enough. I'm getting a lot of it at work right now. People are asking me where my allegiances lie. So I'm getting a lot of that right now.
I'm sure you are. Well, when BYU fans are headed to Martin Stadium, what types of things are they going to see happening?
We have some unique cultural things up here that I haven't seen as I've traveled across different Pac-12 schools around the country. I think the first thing you're going to notice is our tailgate culture here is second to none. You're going to see a ton of RVs. So Pullman is fairly remote comparative to what you would think maybe like Seattle. We're a long ways away from Seattle. And so people bring their RVs in from all over the state. So we have right next to our stadium, we have a really big RV lot. It is just packed full of RVs, and we have 5 other lots just around campus that are all just full of RVs and people who tailgate. We actually open those lots on Thursday nights, and so on Thursday nights, people start rolling in, and they spend the entire weekend tailgating in their RVs. So that's the biggest thing you're going to see. It's really cool. So that's as far as BYU fans, say hello. WSU fans are very friendly. Excited to have BYU visit, so I think there's going to be some good stories. I think when it's all said and done after the weekend, but it's going to be a ton of fun.
I love that. I love that so much. That's so cool with the RVs. And just speaking of WSU fans as a whole, what does a typical game day look like in Pullman?
The typical game day it can kind of vary, but as I mentioned, with us being a little bit remote. When Cougs come back to Pullman, it's kind of like homecoming every single week. And so they come back and they're hitting up Cougar country. They want to go to Ferdinand's, which is our creamery on campus. There's a lot of these things that they look back that are very nostalgic to them. They come back and they want to hit up those places. And so the memories they made here in Pullman, they remember those, and they come back. It's a big deal, and they want to come back, and they want to relive some of those moments they had when they're college students. And so you're going to, so like I said, it really does feel like homecoming every single week here, just because of the distance for some people to travel. It's much further than what you would at maybe some of the other Pac-12 schools. So, for them, it starts early. Also get to the game. There's going to be obviously a ton of action in the game, and then, they'll probably stay here the weekend, and then on Sunday at some point they'll decide to go home. They got to go back to real life, but it's a real trip for them, and they come out and they really have a good time while they're here.
Some of these remote cities, these small cities that have these big universities, are some of the best feels to them on game day. And we just interviewed CJ McCoy, who is in charge of the booster club over there, and he was talking about how there's really nothing around but wheat fields. So for those of us who have not been to Pullman, Washington, what is the city like?
No, there's a ton of hills, and actually there's basically 4 hills that Pullman's built on, and so each one has its own name. But like it is very small, and it's when I first moved here, quite honestly, I was a little surprised. Like Pac-12 University was in a town as small as it is, but it's awesome. It truly is a family up here. I think a lot of people say that, but like Cougs mean it. If when I'm walking to an airport, like in Dallas, and I'm wearing my Coug stuff, people yell out, "Go Cougs!" Like it doesn't matter where you are. I could be in the middle of New York wearing a WCU T-shirt. Someone's gonna yell, "Go Cougs!" at some point. So that family feel is here in Pullman, and it's just because it's such a special place. So when people come in, they're going to see that, and they're going to see how tight knit our fan base is and the community is, because it's. We kind of, this is all we got is each other, and we really get close, and so it's a little bit different than being in a big city.
It's all you've got for miles and miles, but
for miles and miles, absolutely.
Like you said, it really does. It brings people closer together, and you specifically, Matt, have done some really great things for ticket sales and creating a great experience for fans since you started your position there. Mm-hmm. What are some of the new things that have been implemented to enhance game day that you specifically have done?
We've worked really hard to try to improve our board show. Just when you go and you watch the video board, we've worked really hard to try to come up with more engaging content. And that's not just get out your phones and play along, but videos that are entertaining, things you just try to, when people walk in, hey, that's fun, right? And so we've really worked hard with that. We've done a lot of stuff with our mascot program. So our mascot is Butch T. Cougar, and I hear that Cosmo is also going to be here, but our mascot is a ton of fun. He's kind of a troublemaker, kind of a goofy mascot, and so he's always looking for things to do, pranks to pull and that sort of thing. So we've worked a lot with Butch to continue to kind of grow that program. A lot of it just comes down to what are we doing outside the venue. We've set up a little kids area where you can go and play lawn games, that sort of thing. We call that's part of Cougville, which is right next to the stadium. So we've done a lot of things just to try to make it so people come in as kind of a holistic experience. Then hopefully, obviously, we can't control what happens on this field as far as the play goes, but we want everybody else to walk away like, hey, that was fun. I want to bring my family back and continue doing this in the future.
All right, so you mentioned Cosmo the Cougar and Butch T. Cougar. You've kind of had a firsthand experience with both of those mascots. Who would you say is the GOAT of Cougars, Matt? And you got to be honest here.
Oh, it's got to be Butch. I mean, they're both awesome Cougs. Don't get me wrong, but Butch is a personality of his own. I love he makes me laugh all the time. I love Butch.
That's awesome. All right, you got your bachelor's degree from BYU Idaho, and then received your master's degree from Washington State. In your time in Pullman, what would you say is your favorite game day tradition that you've seen? Ooh,
good question. Every game day we have a flag raiser. So wave the flag is a big part of what our mantra is, and so you'll see a lot of our advertising, our fundraising efforts, all about waving the flag, and that really comes down to we always have a Washington State flag on the background of College Game Day. If you've watched College Game Day, you always see a flag in the background, and so in order to kind of mimic that a little bit, where we raise our own flag, right before kickoff, and we always bring back alum of some sort, whether it's a former player. Maybe it's somebody that, a former alum who is famous somehow. We try to bring them back, and it's always fun to see how they respond when the camera goes live onto them. There is the crowd response to them being back in the stadium. and you can just see how excited they are. And I think that's something to me that's really meant a lot, just seeing these people that have been very successful in their lives. They come back to Pullman, you can see what it means to them. And like, man, this is what it means to be a Coug. It's this moment right here. And then they raise the flag, and then we go right into kick, and guys start, knocking helmets. And so it's a really good sequence for me to make me feel really good about myself. Then I start yelling at a football game. So it's for me, I love it. I love it. It's all the feels, I guess, at once.
So cool. And that's got to be really awesome for you. And just in your specific job, you're the one that kind of makes everything come together to see when people are having a good time like that. All right. You mentioned Ferdinand's, which I believe has great cheese curds. Is that right?
Yeah. So we are known for Cougar Gold cheese. It comes in a can, so it is very unique because most cheese does not come in a can, but this does. So, but they have cheese curds there. A lot of ice cream, like kind of ice cream sandwiches. It's really good. If you get a chance, go to Ferdinand's for sure.
Okay, so for those traveling to the game, what would you say are some of the other go-to hotspots, which I know that's hard to do in a small town. You can only have so many, but are there other places that BYU fans need to visit while they're in Pullman?
Yeah, so and I will say that some of them are bars. So there's some pizza places that are really good. I know our student population does really enjoy a place called Stella's, and it's kind of like calzone pizzas, for lack of better terminology. Then you get like a salad with it. That's a place that a lot of people go to. The Coug, which during the day is not a bar. At night it's a bar, but during the day you can go there and have a burger. And that's a place that actually College Game Day went, where people sign the walls and that sort of thing. But so there's a few of those places that like people hit up all the time when they come. But really, there's a lot of local. There's not a lot of chains here, quite honestly. So like wherever you go, you're probably getting some sort of like unique local flair with that restaurant, just because it's not big enough to hold a whole bunch of the big chains. And so that's kind of a unique thing to Pullman, just because you're going to see something very local and unique to here, and it's not something you're going to see everywhere else you go around the country.
Absolutely. Those are the best kind. All right. The football team is 4-3 right now. How are WSU fans feeling about their current football team?
We're very optimistic, actually. And I know that there's things going on in the news right now that, out of the team's control. We played three really good football games, and our winning streak right now is at 3. So we started the season out a little bit slow, but we've really picked things up. Our quarterback play is really improved. Delora he is mobile. He's a playmaker. He kind of plays off the cuff a little bit, and so I think that we're pretty excited about what the team we have to put out there on the field, and we really think it's going to be a competitive game. So I think in general speaking, we're pretty optimistic about our football team, and excited to see what happens here, as we host BYU. But it's going to be a fun game.
I think it'll be a fun matchup as well. All right, now I got to know, what is your prediction for the game? What's the final score going to be, Matt?
Ooh, good question. So I'm going to go with my Crimson Cougs here. So I'm going to say WSU 35, BYU. Let's go with them let's go close on 31.
Ooh, I like it. Hey, I like me a close game. All right, you are so fantastic, man. Thank you so much for joining us, and go Cougs, whatever that means, right?
That's right. Hey, go Cougs. It works for me in a lot of different ways, but thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much, Matt Zollinger, the Associate Director of Athletics for Marketing and Fan Experience. All right, in light of game day predictions, I'm going to say BYU Cougars by 10, 31-21. So we'll see what happens. Game time is just 1 hour away, folks. Okay, so I was curious what all of you thought BYU's greatest game day tradition was, so I took to Twitter and got some good responses. Christian Williams said, "I show up early to watch the players warm up, try to soak it all in, enjoy sitting by the Cougar on a nice day, and watch games on the Jumbotron with the new setup." That sounds really great to me. Jared Hokinson said, "Getting to the game about 2 hours early to give the players high fives as they get off the bus." To me, that's true fandom. Because you can be, some of these kids are like 18 to 24 years old, and you're a grown man coming to shake their hand. I love that, because it really is all about the rich tradition. Mickey Mitchell said, "Cosmo and the Cougarettes are her favorite tradition." And I don't blame you, Mickey, because they are incredible. When I was a sideline reporter, I would seriously be starstruck by the Cougarettes at halftime. They'd have to try and get my attention to resume the broadcast, because they are just absolutely incredible to watch. So much fun. Chris said winning. Winning is his greatest game day tradition. I couldn't agree more. Someone else said there's actually a lack of game day tradition at BYU. And I'm curious what all of you think about that. Is there a lack of game day tradition at BYU? I'm going to be honest. I wouldn't mind seeing more tailgating, which oftentimes is synonymous with drinking, which is why BYU might not be the biggest tailgating college. But I don't think it has to be that way. And there are a lot of great fans who tailgate for BYU and they have a great time. But I would just like to see more people do it. And I think Cougar Canyon, which has been new just within the last couple of years, they do it before game day, I think about 6 or so hours before. And it's quickly becoming a favorite with fans since they have live music, they have games, they have former players around for people to take pictures with before the game. And hopefully as the years go on, more and more people will participate and make it a big party and a rich tradition. So I want to hear from you guys throughout the week at any time. I want to know what your favorite traditions are on game day at BYU, and if you think there is a lack of tradition, and if so, what you would do to change that. So hit me up. I want to know what you think. My Twitter handle is at Lauren F. McClain. And whenever you guys have any thoughts about Cougar Tailgate or anything BYU, or honestly, anything about college sports fandom, please let me know. Let's have a great discussion throughout the week. I love to hear from you guys, and let's keep this conversation going. And that does it for us today. Thanks again to CJ McCoy and Matt Zollinger for coming on the show with me. You can join the Cougar Tailgate virtually, of course, every Saturday at noon Mountain Time, or download, rate, and review our podcast on Apple, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, or on BYURadio.org. It's game day, baby. This is Cougar Tailgate.